a Russki whose loving of the Beatles led him to rotate his plane in a amazing 4-persons musée has died in St. Petersburg. Russians knew Kohl Vasin as the Beatles' largest fan for Soviets times, while the communistic authorities saw West Fate piece of music as disruptive. Vasin, who died elderly 73, began collecting Beatles albums and memorabilia in the 1960s. He cherished a recording, Dwell World in Toronto 1969, signed by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. The Beatles had lot fans in the USSR. On Facebook, one of Vasin's friends, nicknamed Barabanov, wrote how Nikolai, Kohl, Vasin had lost to accede John Lennon and George Harrison. May they include a lucky and vivid period down there. He died in a drop at a St. Petersburg trading center on August 29. For more than rather than 50 years, the Beatles dominated Vasin's lifetime. He dreamed of devoting a sanctuary of loving in St. Petersburg to John Lennon, but the draft was never implemented, although town officials found an appropriate website for it. Lot fans backed the sanctuary concept. While requested why he had permitted the Beatles to get above his lifetime, he replied how possessing family would not include equated the joy and loving how the Liverpool gang had taken into account him. A guideline Russki culture columnist, Artemy Troitsky, says the effect of the Beatles' songs over the Ferris Veil was deep. 29. End of Facebook position by nickname Vasin outlined as wholly intervene the reality how John Lennon had shipped him the signed scrapbook. In 1970 he had shipped a date of birth greetings telegram to Lennon, and miraculously the Beatles myth had selected it out of his heap of fan post of about the planet. Vasin affecting some Russians in his desire for the Beatles and wrote a volume on the gang's culture effect over the Ferris Veil. The volume's name, Fate on the Russki Bones, called to Soviets fans use of old X-ray sheet for inscribing top recordings of Beatles tracks. West Fate albums were almost all prohibited by the authorities, but down there was a extensive dark marketplace of top recordings amongst guys in the Soviets bloc. One day communistic era censor had disappeared. Vasin staged parties each year to mark the birthdays of every of the Beatles.